welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 16 of the 30 videos in 30 days challenge. Thank you for sticking with me this far. I've uploaded a short and quick one today because it's actually Val's birthday, and so I'm obviously off doing fun things with him rather than shooting a video today. So what I did was just shoot this quick video that is about how and why I got into the vintage thing. Why is it that I love vintage style so much? How do I know so much about it? And why have I continued to maintain that fashion style for the rest of my life, or until this point so far. So basically, when I was a little girl, I was really into acting and singing and all things performing, as I still am. And I had a really wonderful grandma. I had two wonderful grandmas actually. One was really into making clothing and costumes and had a history in theatre, and the other one had an acting history and really taught me how to act and gave me all of my acting books and kind of took me under her wing in the sense of performing arts and acting. The influence that both of my grandmas gave me came from the era that they learnt these skills in, and that the idols that they look up to came from, which was the 1930s to the 1960s. So my grandmother, the one that sewed and created costumes, she used to give me lots of beautiful things to wear or make me things to wear, and they always had a bit of particularly a 50s vibe to them. Even when I wore little girls' dresses, she would make me things like little pinafores and things that were very vintage, and she did that style so beautifully. And my other grandma, her big idols were the great actors from the 1940s and 50s, from the golden era of Hollywood, and she gave me all of these books about stylists from that time. So my first big kind of Hollywood idol crush was on Audrey Hepburn. I had this huge picture book that I borrowed from my grandmother that I read from cover to cover, and I just memorized everything about her, and I thought she was the epitome of glamour. And I watched Breakfast at Tiffany's about 1,000 times. I was just obsessed with it. She's so sleek and cool in that movie. Of course, having absolutely no idea that the whole thing was about like a hooker, like a call girl, and a guy that was pimping himself out to a rich woman. I just didn't have a clue. But I just loved the style. So yeah, Audrey Hepburn was my first major influence. Then I watched a bunch of other amazing old Hollywood movies, a lot of noir films. I watched Casablanca and fell in love with the romance between Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. And then Ingrid Bergman was probably the reason why I really got into the 1940s hairstyles, because I thought she was just so naturally beautiful and gorgeous, and Grace Kelly as well. They were very famous for their beauty, but unlike Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor, they weren't super done up. They were very kind of natural beauties, and so I really got into particularly Ingrid Bergman, into her styles. Then I watched Gone with the Wind, again at my grandma's recommendation, and when I was growing up, I was sick a lot, and during the day, we used to have midday movies, and on ABC there were almost always black and white films or films from the golden era. The B-westerns, noir films, and like Hollywood musicals. So I was watching a ton of those because I was at home sick all the time. Which sounds very tragic, but actually worked out really well for me, because like my whole life and career is based on this whole vintage thing, and in my music I do like the songs of Hollywood's golden era. My shows are all based around that with the songs as well. So I really got into Vivian Leigh at that point. She was like this dark, exotic looking beauty. Not that she was particularly exotic, but compared to Ingrid Bergman, she was very kind of like sultry with those deep dark eyes and a very kind of cutting stare. She's now the stereotype for like the resting bitch face memes. But I really fell in love with her, and because she had dark hair and dark eyes, I really thought I could associate with that. And then I discovered Elizabeth Taylor, and at that time I only knew Elizabeth Taylor as like the kind of crazy old lady with the big hair who was friends with Michael Jackson. So to discover her as this like fresh-faced, beautiful, amazing actress of the 1950s just blew me away, and I thought that she was phenomenal, and she's been a big influence on my personal style ever since. So during that time, I used to cut out lots of pictures, like print things off the internet, make little collages of my favourite actresses, and they included Hedy Lamarr, still Audrey Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marilyn Monroe. They were my really big loves. I loved the way that they dressed. They in particular had a style that was kind of like very sleek. Oh, and Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner was huge for me. And their style was kind of very sleek and classy, I felt. Marilyn Monroe often wore kind of like bimbo-y stuff in her movies, but when you used to look at pictures of her when she was on the carpet or she was doing press interviews and things, she was always like very kind of cleanly dressed, usually in black or white with like beautiful cuts to the clothing and not too many patterns. And I really loved that style. I mean, I'm wearing something with a pattern today, but a lot of my clothing is just kind of like one color, and then it has the focus on the structure of the garment, which I think is a really classy way to dress. So I really became quite obsessed with them. So you can see even at a young age I was getting influenced by this, and then as a little girl, I think I've mentioned in a previous video, when I would go to sleep at night I would do my hair. So I would wake up in the morning with all these elaborate hairdos that were often inspired by the films that I'd been watching, which were of course the movies of the Golden Hollywood era. Then as I got older and I started doing performing arts and creating like my performance persona, I started incorporating this vintage style into my persona, which was funny because at the time everyone was really nuts about like the platform shoes and the bell-bottomed super low-cut 70s jeans, because we just like come out of the Spice Girls era. I know I'm revealing how old I am, but we just come out of the era as I entered into high school, and Britney Spears was around with those like super low-cut jeans, and Christina Aguilera. So everyone was wearing that, and I was rocking up at school wearing like these super high-waisted jeans, and I couldn't find any pants from the 1950s, but I'd found these like 1980s, but instead of being baggy, they were super tight, like a pair of cigarette pants is. And they had, like literally they came up past my belly button line, and they were skin tight all the way down to my ankles. And I would wear those with like little black ballet flats. You gotta remember I lived in the country, so my access to like really cool stuff wasn't there, but I'd wear little black ballet flats and then like turtleneck tops for casual clothes day at school. And then when I did my performances, I would do winged liner and red lipstick, and I would curl my hair with my curlers. And I used to feel like so glam, and I would get paid out so much for what I was wearing. People were like, what is with your pants? That is so weird. And then about 6 years later, suddenly, and I still had the same pair of pants, I still wore them. Suddenly everyone thought my pants was so cool because like skinny black jeans came in, and they've kind of been in ever since. But I found that quite funny because I literally didn't change anything, but suddenly I was stylish. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. If you watch any of my videos of me performing, you'll see that I do pay homage to the golden era of Hollywood in my performances. I do like Marilyn-y acts. I do all like the dance moves, and I do the songs, and I do more kind of jazzy interpretations of the originals. Some of them were music theatre, and I've turned them into jazz pieces with the wonderful MDs that I work with for my shows. I do also write my own music. There's none out at the moment. Some of you have asked about that, so I am going to release an EP, and it will be of my own stuff, but it will have a vintage vibe because that's my jam, yo. Yeah, basically the vintage thing has been in my life ever since I was very young. And my mum was also a huge collector of vintage, and when I was little, her wardrobe used to be full of the most amazing things, and she wore stuff right from like the 1930s through to the 1970s, and just her style was phenomenal. So I couldn't really escape it. Everyone in my life was encouraging me to love the vintage era and be very feminine. So that's how that came about. And now basically, apart from YouTube and giving you guys tips, it's also a huge part of my day-to-day life and also my performance life. So yeah, that's me and that's my vintage story. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I've got lots more interesting videos to come. I would love to hear how you guys got into vintage style and why you love the vintage look. Please put it in the comments below, or you can private message me on Instagram or tag any of my photos. And please feel free to tag yourself in any of the tutorials that you might do for me. I would really love to see that on Instagram. It would be really cool. Thanks, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.